Every day I start off my summary with the open section, but today I'm going to start it off with the women's section. That's because our Indian women's team are now the sole leaders of the tournament after 6 rounds. They have won all their matches and are on 12 out of 12. In the 6th round, they beat the super strong Georgians with a score of 3-1. What an amazing match that was. It all began with Humpy's victory on board number 1. She played against Nana Zagnidze, and in this position, Humpy played her knight to c6. It was a Benoni. And in this position, Nana Zagnidze took here, and after d takes c6, it became quite clear that Humpy was in the driver's seat. Her rook attacking here, the bishop opens up. It's a very nice position. Instead, Humpy mentioned in the post-game conference that black should have played queen f6 and sacrificed an exchange after knight b8, rook b8, and this position black has decent compensation. It's very interesting to see that even though you are a complete exchange down, she could have held on. But Nana Zagnidze didn't play so well and Humpy won the game. Harika drew her game against Nino Batsiashvili, and then we go to the game of Vaishali. What a game this was. And Vaishali won in a beautiful, beautiful style here. So, in this position, Vaishali has just attacked the knight. It's kind of an equalish position, and if the knight was played to f5, black is doing very well. But guess what? Vaishali's opponent Leila Javakashvili played here. She played knight to b7. And now Vaishali could have made many moves. She could have brought her rook to the center, maybe queen d2. But Vaishali, she played the excellent move here, b4. What a move this was, because she gave up her rook. Bishop takes a1, queen takes a1, and now guys, there is absolutely no way that you can stop the bishop getting trapped on b5, because the knight cannot move anywhere and the bishop cannot go. What a beautiful position this is, and Vaishali managed to beat her opponent, and with that the two other boards, Tanya and Harika, drew. Vaishali and Humpy won 3-1 victory for the Indian girls. Now we go to the open section, and very interestingly, because the young lads, the second team of India was leading, they got these individual boards here. It was not the A team. So on board number 1 sat our superhero, Mr. Gukesh here, and Gukesh was playing with the white pieces against Gabriel Sargsyan. In this position, it's white to play. Black's last move was to take this pawn on f5. What did Gukesh play here? Gukesh played the spectacular move, bishop takes b4. And the idea is very clear. He wants to move the queen to g2 and just checkmate his opponent. So Sargsyan came in with the queen. He took on b4. There were also other variations. For example, you could take with the pawn, but then queen g2 is finishing it off. Like for example, if you go queen e8, I simply go e7 and your rook is trapped. You can't take, rook g8 is a mate. So he took with the queen here, and Gukesh moved his queen to g2, threatening a mate in 1. Sargsyan exchanged the queens, takes, pawn takes, and it seems like the attack is over. Not really. In comes pawn to e7, threatening to queen. So you play rook e8, and now what do? Boom, rook g8. And after rook takes g8, king takes g8, he made a queen and went on to win the game. With this win, Gukesh beat another super strong player. He's now 6 out of 6. His live rating is 2719 and he's going upwards. So with Gukesh winning and Nihal Sarin drawing the game, the youngsters were leading against Armenia 1.5-1. But then it all boiled down to the games of Raunak Sadhwani and Adhiban. Let's first look at Adhiban's game. Adhiban here, playing with the white pieces, could have played. If you look at this position, it's a hanging pawn structure. Adhiban is white and he played the move rook f d1, but this was the start of a wrong idea. He should have gone bishop to c4 because that, I think, was the plan behind queen f3. The bishop is pinned here and there's a lot of pressure on the d5 pawn. A line could go takes, queen takes, knight b d7, but I think white is doing pretty fine here with maybe rook f d1. But as it turns out that he played the move rook f d1 directly, and then in such a position black was doing very well because he has d4 breaks in the air. Also the queen is little awkwardly placed and Adhiban went on to lose this game, which was not a good result for Team India. Then it went to Raunak Sadhwani, who played the Berlin defense with black. Now the Berlin endgame is drawish in nature, but Raunak got into trouble. He was well prepared in the game, but here he's already facing some difficulties. Here the f6 pawn is hanging and Raunak should have given it up with rook d7. Okay, rook takes f6 and the game goes on. Black can still defend this. But instead, he blundered here with rook e6. And can you find the winning move? The move is bishop c5 with a mating attack here, and it becomes difficult to play rook d7 because the rook is in the way. And that's the reason why here bishop c5 was a very, very powerful move played by Robert Hovhannisyan, who won and gave Armenia their their sixth victory. They are now the sole leaders here in the open section, and the Indian lads faced their first defeat in the tournament. Going to the open section, India A team over here, we had Hari Krishna, who was playing with the black pieces. Okay, no problem. Hari Krishna, who was playing with the black pieces, and he was facing Nodirbek Abdusattorov. Now Nodirbek is in tremendous form. He was on 5 out of 5. He had beaten Fabiano Caruana in this tournament, but his last move in the game, he had played this move queen b3 here, which was very, very surprising. You know, putting your queen on b3. It was not in this position, but it was something like this. And Nodirbek went queen b3, which was absolutely didn't make sense because it allowed black to castle. And then after d4, I guess knight d2, knight g6, d4, it already became clear that black is the one in driver's seat because he is having an attacking chance here and the bishop is very strong. As Hari Krishna said, queen coming to b3 was a crucial error. After takes, now g4 was very powerful, but Hari Krishna went for the simple choice, take, take and take. And just looking at this position, you will realize that black is better and almost winning. The bishop is powerful. The idea is g5, h5, h4, king g7, rook can swing over, there is f5 in the air. And yes, Hari Krishna's technique might not have been the best, but it was sufficient to win the game. Arjun Erigaisi playing against Javokhir Sindarov. This was the game where Indians were very lucky. So what happened here was that in this position, Arjun is under tremendous pressure. What should he do? Here, Arjun's opponent played knight d4, and this allowed him to take the pawn, and after this he could hold a draw. But imagine if in this position Sindarov would have played rook d7, I think Arjun would have been almost lost. Why? Because after knight e6, you go rook b7, attacking this pawn, you have to defend, and in comes king e3, next move king d3, then knight d4, and you lose the b5 pawn after protecting c3, and game over with 2 passers. In fact, this was such a lost position for Arjun, but luckily Sindarov did not play it and Arjun drew that game. But that luck was compensated on this board where Shashi Kiran had a very good position here with white pieces. And Shashikiran here could have taken on e5 and the game would have been around equal, maybe slightly better for white. But what did Shashi do? He took on d4, a huge blunder in time pressure, because after takes, it turned out the c4 pawn is weak and the position is just collapsing. In the end, Shashikiran lost the game and the match ended in a 2-2 draw. Uzbekistan, after drawing against USA, the young team drew with India as well. Very, very dangerous, guys. Now, let's go to another interesting game of India where we completely dominated Lithuania. This is India 3 team, and over here it was Sethu Raman, Abhijit Gupta, Abhimanyu Puranik, all of them winning their games, Ganguly drawing. We checked this game of Abhijit Gupta, which I simply loved because of a very small nuance. So this is the position here, and it's clear that white is better. But black has a threat to take here and to take here on f4. So what do? Well, Abhijit finds this amazing idea, which is check. Point is, you provoke the king to go to h8 and then bring your bishop to f5. Very subtle, very nice. Because after takes, in the game g6 was played, which led to a loss. But let's say you take on f4. It's a very nice line. Take, queen h5, and now here you play rook d3, attacking the bishop. Now imagine that the bishop goes back, let's say to b4, and you go rook h3, threatening a mate, king f8, knight to b6, attacking the rook and threatening check here. So takes, and now queen g5, taking control of this square, threatening a checkmate, king g8 and rook h7. And with these beautiful lines, I think Abhijit had seen most of them and he managed to win this game. Very pretty game. And even Sethu Raman played a nice game, even Abhimanyu played a nice game, but this was my favorite one. Let's look at the games of two more teams from India, Indian women's 2 and Indian women's 3 games. Now the women 2 team against Czech Republic actually held their own very well, because at some point they were all in difficulties. Vantika, by the way, had a great position, but the game ended in a draw. I think Padmini, Mary-Ann Gomes and Divya all saved quite difficult positions, and 2-2 draw was the result of the game. And then we go to India 3, who played against Australia, and they made a strong comeback as well, because yesterday they lost their match, and in this game it was Sahiti Varshini here who was playing on this board. I think she was playing on this board, but just this position. Sahiti's opponent here had to play the move bishop g7 as white, and then knight e2, bishop e5 would have led to a draw because the king is very active. But instead she played the move bishop c5, and after knight e2 attacking this pawn, the king went back and black king came in. Now this is hanging and the king is coming in, and Sahiti managed to win a very nice knight endgame. Actually, this entire match that India won 3-1 was sort of the architects were the 2 young girls, Sahiti and Vishwa, 15 and 16-year-old. And for Vishwa, it was her first win at the Olympiad. And with this, the India 3 team has now scored a very important victory. So a relatively decent day for Team India, especially in the women's A team, which is right up there at the top, sole leaders. And also the 3 open teams now at 10 points. This is going to be very exciting. Tomorrow is a rest day. We're going to the Bermuda party now, but I'll be back on the 7th round. This is Sagar Shah signing off. Bye-bye.